For centuries, wealth was measured in factories, machines, warehouses, shipping routes, physical production. The larger the factory, the greater the output. The greater the output, the greater the business. But something changed, quietly, almost invisibly. Some of the fastest growing companies in the world stopped manufacturing physical products. They stopped filling warehouses. They stopped shipping boxes. Yet they continued creating extraordinary value. How? Because their most valuable assets could be copied without being consumed, sold without leaving a shelf, delivered without crossing an ocean. And once that became possible, the economics of business changed forever.
The industrial economy was built on atoms, steel, wood, plastic, concrete. Every product required materials, transportation, storage, replacement. Every additional customer increased operational complexity. Digital assets operate differently. Software can be duplicated instantly. An online course can reach millions. A digital template can be downloaded endlessly. An AI model can serve users around the world simultaneously. The economics are no longer constrained by inventory. They are constrained only by imagination and infrastructure.
Imagine creating something once and delivering it 1,000,000 times, without manufacturing it again, without shipping it again, without rebuilding it again. This is not science fiction. It is already happening every day across software, artificial intelligence, digital media, templates, design systems, and intellectual property. The product no longer exists inside a warehouse. It exists inside infrastructure. And infrastructure scales differently from factories.
Every physical product follows the same rule: sell one, and inventory decreases. Produce another, ship another, store another. The cycle never ends. Digital assets obey different economics. A software application can be downloaded millions of times without creating another copy manually. A digital template can serve thousands of businesses simultaneously. An AI model can answer millions of questions every day without being consumed. The first version requires enormous effort. The second version costs almost nothing. This changes the relationship between effort and output. Labor remains finite. Digital assets become nearly infinite. The business no longer scales through production. It scales through distribution. That is the hidden system. The product is created once. The infrastructure performs the repetition. Behind every successful digital asset, a different economic engine begins to operate. First, knowledge is transformed into intellectual property. That intellectual property becomes software, a template, a digital product, a design, an AI workflow, or a system. Once completed, the asset enters distribution. Every customer receives the same value without requiring the creator to repeat the work. Revenue begins to accumulate, not because effort increases, but because access expands. The income generated funds improvements. The improvements increase quality. Higher quality attracts more customers. More customers create more revenue. Revenue finances new digital assets. The cycle repeats, quietly, automatically, relentlessly. This is no longer manufacturing, it is architecture. Factories multiply physical products. Digital infrastructure multiplies knowledge. That is why intellectual property has become one of the most valuable asset classes of the modern economy, not because it is invisible, but because it compounds without physical limitations.
This is where traditional economics begins to change. Imagine two businesses. The first manufactures physical products. Every new customer requires more materials, more workers, more logistics, more warehouses. Growth increases complexity. Now imagine a business built around digital assets. The product has already been created. The infrastructure is already operating. The next customer downloads the same software, the same template, the same digital system, the same AI workflow. The business grows, but operational complexity grows far more slowly. That difference changes everything. One business expands by increasing production. The other expands by increasing distribution. One fights physical limitations. The other leverages digital infrastructure. This is why many of today's most valuable companies own fewer physical assets than the industrial giants that came before them. Their competitive advantage is no longer measured in factories. It is measured in intellectual property, software, automation, and systems that continue creating value long after the original work has been completed. The business is no longer scaling people. It is scaling architecture.
For centuries, capital meant land, factories, machines, buildings. The digital economy introduced another form of capital, knowledge. But knowledge alone has little value. It becomes valuable only after it is engineered into an asset, an application, a platform, a template, an operating system, an automation workflow, a digital blueprint. Something that can continue delivering value without requiring continuous human effort. That is the transformation. Knowledge becomes intellectual property. Intellectual property becomes digital assets. Digital assets become recurring economic engines. This is why the modern entrepreneur increasingly behaves like an architect, not simply creating products, but designing assets that continue producing value across time. The greatest shift of the digital economy is not technology. It is the ability to transform expertise into infrastructure. That infrastructure becomes capital.
Every hour of labor has a limit. Every person has a limit. Every physical business eventually meets capacity. Digital assets introduce a different equation. One idea can become software. That software can become a platform. That platform can become infrastructure. And infrastructure can continue creating value long after the creator has stopped working. That is why the most valuable digital businesses rarely depend on constant human output. They depend on assets that continue performing, continuously, quietly, autonomously. The objective is no longer to exchange time for money. The objective is to engineer assets that repeatedly create value, because income pays today's expenses. Assets build tomorrow's economy. The entrepreneurs who thrive in the coming decades may not be those who work the hardest. They may be those who build the strongest digital asset architecture. Many of these businesses are accelerated using production-ready themes, application frameworks, automation components, and scalable digital infrastructure, instead of starting from scratch. If you're exploring how modern digital businesses are engineered, you'll find additional resources in the description below.
If you want to explore more about AI, automation, digital infrastructure, scalable business systems, and the architecture behind modern wealth, subscribe to ASUTSEN and comment below. If you could build one digital asset, what would it be? A software platform, an AI system, a digital product, or an entire autonomous business? The next industrial revolution may not be built with steel, or concrete, or factories. It may be built with code, knowledge, automation, and digital infrastructure. The businesses that define the future will not simply manufacture products. They will engineer assets. Assets that scale beyond geography, beyond inventory, beyond working hours. Because the greatest advantage of the digital economy is not speed, it is replication. Create once, improve continuously, distribute globally, repeat indefinitely. That is the hidden architecture behind modern digital wealth. And perhaps the most valuable factory of the future will exist entirely in the cloud. This is ASUTSEN, architecting wealth, automating future.